Hello, everyone. Welcome to another exciting episode of CodeNinja Global. Tonight, we have a guest who has spent 2 decades transforming how global organizations approach people, culture, and growth. She's a Harvard alumni and someone whose work has spanned leadership roles at major tech companies, including LinkedIn, Microsoft, PayPal, Shazam, Skype, AOL, Multiplayer, you name it, she's been there. We're joined by Agata Julia Brzezic, currently founder of Human Culture Lab. With Agata today, we will be diving into the neuroscience of psychological safety, something that helps you build resilient cultures in distributed teams spread across the globe. And how can we balance human leadership with AI driven automation? So, without further ado, let's dive right in. Agatha, amazing to have you with us today. Thank you so much for taking out the time for doing this.
I'm honest. Thank you for having me.
Amazing. So I'll dive right in, with a question that we begin with all of our guests that we have. We've been, fortunate enough to have guests with such remarkable, career trajectories, and with you, you've had like, front row seats to some of the world's most culturally defining tech companies, from AIM to AOL, Skype, Shazam, LinkedIn, PayPal. I can go on, Microsoft. Looking back, what were some of the pivotal career moments, that redefined your understanding of leadership and team dynamics, and how did those experiences, shape your commitment to rethinking culture at scale, and especially in today's very hybrid and high velocity environments?
Okay. Well, to answer this question fully, I need to go back a few years and say that, first of all, I was born behind the curtain. So in Europe, when I was born, it was a divided continent, and there was
Okay.
that sphere of Soviet influence, and Poland, where I'm from, was under it wasn't the part of the Soviet Union, but we were under that influence. So there was a Berlin Wall, as you probably know, and everything
Yeah.
east of that was behind the curtain. So it was a different way of growing up, and therefore different expectations, how you form as a human being. So that had a big impact of how I receive culture, or how what sort of culture I want to create. Because to be very honest, and not to start on a sad note, but when you grow up in a country where you know that there is just one way of doing things, and that doesn't matter what you want to do, you're going to just do what's there for you to do.
Yeah.
And that,
Yeah.
like, if you are okay adjusting, adapting to that, that's great. But if you are somehow like me, that was a bit of a rebel, and I wanted to do my own thing, and I had ideas. I wanted to, I was still young,
Brilliant.
because when the wall collapsed in '89, so I was then like a young teenager. At that time, I could only dream about things, and like, um, just imagine things, really, rather than rather than experience them, right? So then, when when the world opened up for us, and we were able to go and travel to different countries, and live in different countries, and work in different countries, for me, it was a huge opportunity. And I was one of those enthusiasts, to bring people, like, to connect people. The thing is that I didn't know, when I was graduating, I wasn't quite sure what I wanted to do. And then I believe lots of people come to that conclusion, that, okay, now I finished my university, and what's next? What do I do now? And
Yeah.
now I'm
Yeah.
adult, and I have to
Yeah.
do something.
Yeah.
And the good news is that you don't really have to know, because you just need to follow your heart, would be my advice to everybody. Because you will discover it. You don't have to have all the answers when you are 20,
Absolutely.
and
Yeah.
you won't. So, and I don't think you have them when you're my age either. But you at least get some experience. So where I'm heading with this, when Poland opened up a little bit, we were all fighting for the best possible opportunities, because and it was very feisty. And I remember I moved from Warsaw to London, and London is considered as such a busy, dynamic city, and I remember I was thinking, "Wow, it's so quiet," because the culture of work in Warsaw was like, "Let's just
Yeah.
like go for it," like really kind of aggressive, and the culture also the national sort of trait is directness, and that's how the language works. So then you move to a softer culture. British culture is a lot softer, where I was initially coming across as rude. Also, how the language works. We don't say please and thank you every sentence. We just don't. That's not how the language works. If you do, sound a bit weird. Like, why are you apologizing for everything? There's no need. So
Yeah.
you have to learn and adjust, and then you land in a corporate world, and wherever, anywhere in the world, wherever I've seen it, it's always there is always a little bit of a battle. There's always a little bit of politics. So you quickly need to adjust. You quickly need to find a way,
Absolutely.
and you need to sort of figure it out. So now, coming to your question, it. I worked in companies with great culture, and I worked with companies with not such great culture. So again, it gave me an overview how to my expectations, how I grew up, as I moved over to the Western world, I was incredibly grateful and incredibly humbled, and in a way, maybe too much. I was seeing myself a little bit as inferior because I didn't grow up in that culture. I didn't speak the language the way people did. I didn't quite understand. So I sort of myself was taking me a little bit like under, which I advise nobody does. And then you get all these amazing things that are around you, and it's easy to mistake, you know people's culture for intentions or behaviors when you filter it through your own. And then the company culture also can be very exciting if you come
Absolutely.
from a completely different background. It can be like, oh my God, this company really loves me, this company is amazing, they really care for me. So
Yeah.
the truth is, every company is in the business of making money, and you are in that business to help them make money. That's very blunt, I know, that's Polish. And
Yeah.
they can treat you well, and they should. And I am a huge advocate for centric treatment. But this is a job. And of course, we all want to work in a company where we feel good, and that's where the culture really comes to play. We want to work in a company where we want to get up in the morning, have an impact, do something meaningful in a nice environment with people who inspire us, with bosses who don't bully us, with opportunities to grow. We all want that all this exists to a certain extent, I think, and there are companies that are doing really great job. But again, when the company is in trouble, they are going to protect themselves first. And you can see
First, yeah.
this widely throughout all these redundancies that have been going on, especially in the tech world, because tech
Yeah.
was famous for these amazing cultures of total freedom, putting yourself first. And yes, it's all great when the pockets are deep. It's fun. It's good. You want that. But when they need to make savings, they will make savings, and you need to really look for those qualities in yourself. And I guess that's where the human centric culture starts with you, because
Mm.
even if you're lucky enough and you get to a brilliant company with a culture that suits you, and you then become, I don't know, one of the top leaders, if you
Yeah.
don't have it in you, you won't be able to give it to other people. So it always starts with you.
Absolutely. And I think it's more about having different perspectives of, working from
Mm.
one company to the other, regardless of what kind of experiences that you've had.
Yes.
You could be at LinkedIn, you could be at PayPal, but
Mhm.
how each perspective of working in a different company will shape how you will perceive the culture in the next one.
Absolutely. And you see that amongst people. If, like LinkedIn wasn't my first job, I actually had a job
Hmm.
in Warsaw where the employer wouldn't even give you water, for example. And then you land in a job where everything you can think of is there for you. I mean, like coffee, tea, drinks, whatever,
Hmm.
snacks. And then you compare to that one business where you couldn't even have a glass of water unless you bought a bottle for yourself.
Yeah.
So you appreciate this richness a lot more. And then comparing that to somebody who, for whom this is their first job, and they've been there for 3 years and that's all they know, they obviously don't have the same pain point reference. So they think that's just a given, like that's the basic, that's what everybody has. And then when they go to another job, and I don't know, there are only 3 types of coffee instead of five, they don't like it. But it's especially I've seen it in amongst technology companies, because they do like to spoil the the employees in
Yeah.
that way. You say all this, and yeah, that's, I guess that's why it's important to appreciate what we have, because can always be worse. That's for sure.
Absolutely. All right. So I'll move on to, we mentioned LinkedIn. I think you were at LinkedIn, when the global pandemic hit, right?
Yes, I was there during the first year of the pandemic, yeah, and then I left.
And okay, so an event that I believe that very drastically shifted how we work and how we think about work as well. The concept of remote teams, really took off then. And from your perspective, how did that period, how did you see that changing organizational approaches to remote work? And what cultural, practices do you saw emerging, which we should, continue to embrace right now as well?
It was actually I answered this question from two different perspectives, because it was
Yeah.
actually quite interesting observation that ties to the last point I was making. So a lot of people, especially at LinkedIn in Dublin, where it's the community of employees is much younger than in London, for example, where I started, um, there was a lot of high expectations. So LinkedIn did an amazing job. So there is a kitchen at LinkedIn where they cook all the foods, and then we just show up and eat it, right? But then a lot of people during the pandemic who lived on their own or with other young people, they just didn't know how to cook or were completely sort of lost. So first there was a lot of questions and somehow I'd say expectations that LinkedIn is still going to send food to people's homes, which
Okay.
from my perspective was like, seriously. But what what LinkedIn did instead, of course, that nobody was sending food to your home, but they, for example, they recorded cooking classes which were available. So like a chef from LinkedIn Kitchen would say, okay, here's a full chicken, right? And this is how you deal with it. So that's how you
Okay.
get the chicken breast of it. How that's what you can do with the carcass. So just to support those employees that they could still feed themselves, because if that's if you go from under your mom's and dad's wing into this everything there for you, then it could be actually quite difficult to transition and tend to cook for yourself. So LinkedIn did that. LinkedIn also had a lot of communication that was pretty good, and each manager, each leader was organizing constant calls with the team, so like people stayed involved. But you probably remember from the beginning of the pandemic that we started having too many calls. Like suddenly all you did was sitting in calls, and
Yeah.
those calls that were supposed to be fun suddenly stopped being fun because it was just yet another call and I just don't want to have it.
Yeah.
It also evolved with time. But um, the other perspective I wanted to offer is that when I started working at LinkedIn in London, I worked in a pretty senior team, and we didn't really um, we were just completely, how to say, we didn't have rules per se. So we would say, okay, I need to, my friend was like, I need to work from home on Wednesdays and whatever Thursdays, let's say, because my child can't get into
Yeah.
into
Yeah.
nursery these days. And we were just informing each other, and our manager was also fine with it. And so we had a lot more flexibility, really. Then after the pandemic, okay, I wasn't at LinkedIn after the pandemic, but from what I'm hearing, not just LinkedIn, but everywhere, like everything is very strict. And even if you want to work from home, there are strict dates or strict rules. And um, I don't think it's better. I think it's gone worse in that sense, because people are a lot more um, controlled, if that's the right word. It's a lot more
Okay.
structured than it once used to be. Like the Friday from home in London was just a thing. Like my partner would go on Fridays to work because nobody was in his office and he could finally do what he needed to do. Whereas people would just work from home on Fridays. That was just a thing, not because of the pandemic or anything. It was just, yeah,
Yeah.
Friday from home. And after the pandemic, I think, depending on the company, of course, but it's not as obvious and it's not as kind of free spirited. It's more like, okay, you need to get some sort of approval. It needs to be agreed. It needs to be known. Um, I personally don't know if it's better because it doesn't create the feeling of trust. It doesn't create the. It creates this sort of. It adds up, definitely. That's what I see from my coaching clients. It adds up to the feeling of sort of just the job is just a little daunting, sort of. Like you can't. You don't really feel like. And I'm just generalizing, just so be clear. It
Hmm.
doesn't feel. Um, it's people feel a bit um, like flat at work
Okay.
these days post pandemic. I personally like the hybrid model because then you've got the best of both worlds.
Yeah.
But when you look at data will tell you that fully remote job doesn't work in women's favor in a way that women benefit from being in the office, talking with people, being seen,
Yeah.
contributing in person, making connections.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And if especially women, it is better for women to have the hybrid model at least because they like during the pandemic the number of promotions amongst women dropped and the visibility, and we also observed that if you didn't know people well enough you would be easily, let's say,
Yeah.
forgotten, kind of faded into the background. And if you
Yes.
are a young employee, if this is your first or second job, and especially clearly if you're a woman, you don't want to be unknown after 2 3 years of putting your best into this job, so you just want to maybe show your face
And
sometimes.
I'm very fascinated about the neuroscience behind psychological safety and how
Mhm.
critical it is in high performing teams. Can you, for our audience, dive into how enabled psychological safety, at scale across global distributed engineering teams, across different uh, time zones, different diverse cultures, uh, how it works?
Okay, so maybe I take a couple of steps back so that it's clear why is it important and also
Mm,
why logically it's important. So, we evolved from, you've heard this many times, I'm sure. Look, like once we were wild people living in the wild and being chased by animals or whatever, and that's where the response of, freeze, fight, that's where it comes from. So when you are feeling stressed in your body, when you are not feeling relaxed, why? Because your body responds in a certain way. Your
mm,
adrenaline level goes up, your heart rate goes up, your bloodstream is redirected into the critical parts of your body. So you may have like stomach ache, or you can feel a bit different. Most importantly, your thinking is channeled, because just imagine you are running away from a lion. You are not looking at beautiful paysage and thinking creatively. You're just running away to safety.
yeah.
So if that's how you feel in the office, if that's how if you feel unsafe, your body responds to danger. Because why do you feel unsafe? And the body responds to danger the same exact way. So that's the basis of why creating that safety is so important. If you want
Mm,
people to give their best, innovate, think outside of the box, they need to feel like they can and that they are fully accepted for it. And okay, you don't have to agree with them. Or some of them may say something you personally consider as maybe silly or naive or stupid. That doesn't
yeah.
matter, right? Because everybody is learning through it. That's why we're with other people, so we can learn from them and they can learn from us. And we all have something to learn from each other. So when you've got that, if you believe as an employee in a team that no matter what you say, well, I'm not talking about some completely ridiculous saying, some, like,
Hmm.
something that would normally be illegal, but whatever you say in the topic, right, is going to be taken and discussed. And if it's rejected, you know why. Like, it is a beneficial process for you because you learn, you contribute, and we all learn. Sometimes you can be like, someone is completely new on the team. Okay, so they have the same experience as you, they don't have the same knowledge on the job. What they have, and you surely don't have, is
Mm.
this completely new perspective. They have ideas, they look at the world differently. And if you don't allow them to express it, or if they don't feel, maybe it's not like leaders would say, it's not like I don't allow, they just don't. But why don't they? Because they don't feel like they can. So it is your job as a leader to encourage. And how do you encourage? By doing it yourself. Sometimes looking silly, sometimes saying I struggle too, sometimes being,
Yeah.
like, honestly, I don't know, guys, help me. Because in the end of the day, they are same sort of people as you are, you're just in different jobs. So the more psychological safety you enable, and I come to
Mm.
the distributed teams in a second, the more you enable, the more you're gonna get from it because people will feel, okay, I can bring on, and I'm not going to be punished for it, and I'm not going to be ridiculed for it. And the same, like, so in distributed teams, the biggest challenge is that we don't connect personally. We don't see each other
Yeah.
in free, as someone said.
Exactly.
So we see each other like we talk now. And yes, it's somehow satisfying, but it's not the same. There is a filter. It's not that you don't fully see my body language. You don't see, for
Absolutely.
example,
Yeah.
are
Absolutely.
doing. So our perception of the other person is also slightly different. So the communication is even more important. The more we talk, the more we engage, the more we um, enable ourselves and the teams to bring as much as possible of ourselves, then the more we learn, the more we contribute. The more we learn, the more we contribute, and the more this the more benefits the whole team gets. So I
Mm.
can give examples, like I would have one-to-ones sometimes that would go totally over time because
Okay.
I just wanted to meet somebody's newborn child, and they would be so proud of the child, and they bring the child. And it doesn't always have to be very,
Yeah.
like, it doesn't have to be only about the numbers. And especially when all we have is the screen, just talk about each other and talk about it in a way that's safe, that they know you're not going to use against them, you're not going to ridicule, you're not going to it, do anything bad. Nothing bad is going to happen to them. The opposite. You're going to, by knowing them better, you will be able to empower them more to spot an opportunity and say, oh, I know this could be of your interest because I know you're interested in this kind of things because you once told me. So that's the empowerment, the communication, and also listening. So when people talk to you, you really need to be interested in people to lead people. If you're not interested in people, they're not going to open up.
Yeah, exactly. 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 And I'll try and connect this, question to my next one, where I'll try and cover more technical perspective of this. So as we see, artificial intelligence, it's being embedded in nearly every workflow, and it's very clear that people in leadership positions may need to change or evolve how they approach to work or engaging, with their employees. So how do you see the balance between the rise of, automation while also maintaining human autonomy, and some guardrails, some frameworks may be recommended to keep culture deeply human centered in an AI native era?
Firstly, let me say the AI induced job insecurity is everywhere, everywhere you look. So, again, allow me to be blunt. There is not such a thing as job security anymore. I personally think there's never been, but there isn't such a thing as job security. And we're going through a big revolution right now. And this train has left the station. There's no coming back. Nobody is going to now forget about AI because we all benefit from it. Like, we all tried it, we all did something with AI, and we all benefit from it. So it's actually amazing.
Hmm.
Will it change the ways we work? Yeah, it will. Like introducing an engine did, or introducing the internet changed the way we work.
Yeah.
This one
Yeah.
will also change the way we work. Will some jobs be lost? Yes, they will. Some jobs will be lost. But again, some jobs were lost. Let's just look at the internet. It's not that old.
Absolutely.
Some or even like mobile phones, how they revolutionized the normal phone. Like I remember when I remember I was already big enough at school. I had to run to like a public phone where there would be a queue and minus 15 outside and wait for somebody to finish talking so I could put the coin inside and call my friend. And to be like one
Right.
for
Yeah.
one flat across 50 flats in a block of flats. So, and
Mm.
now everybody has at least one phone in their pocket. So, but all those changes reduce, like, remove the need for somebody. So, for example, the phone remove the need for somebody connecting, on a switchboard, different lines. That's okay because that job has been automated. And now that person can do something else. With AI is bigger, I feel. And what AI is supposed to do is to amplify, augment our natural abilities. So that instead of, for
Absolutely.
example, I give you my example, instead of spending the whole day trying to align 4 circles on the PowerPoint, which would take me the whole day, just so that they're in perfect line, I now use AI that does it poof like this. So I've got 8 hours to do something which I would prefer maybe doing, something more
Mm.
creative, something more fun. Now it's up to us to think what we can do with all this regained time, because it's not just gonna be like, wasted. We will think of something. We may be going through the change right now and we don't yet know what we can do instead. New jobs will be created, new types of jobs will be created,
Yeah.
new types. Maybe, maybe I don't know, maybe AI will take so much off our plate that we will just work half of the time. Why not? um I don't know. I went to the Dublin Tech Summit last week, and
Mhm.
according to the research, what's post AI, like I can't exactly remember how many years, but in my lifetime, there's supposed to be a humanoid in every household, like a robot.
Yeah.
Okay, so for now it sounds a bit crazy, but like my mobile phone sounded crazy once. So it's just a way of getting adapted to those things. They are all to make our lives easier. And everything, and this is something that we all need to remember, everything has the dark side and the bright side. The sun and the shadow, Nate and like yin and yang, every single thing. So, we can decide then as human beings, we can decide whether we want to focus and use it positively or are we going to use it negatively. This is about the internet, this is about anything, every single thing has those two sides. Um, so I often tell people who are really petrified with I say AI is made by people,
Yeah.
sold by people, and bought
Yeah.
by
Yeah.
people.
Yes.
So let's enjoy it. And there is a lot of talk about regulation, how to make sure that it doesn't go, like doesn't do anything that would be maybe unethical. In
Mm.
the Dublin Tech Summit, I was talking to someone who was saying about Chat GPT, I think, one of those home used chats that it can go really like flattering, and some stories of somebody who committed suicide because they fell in love with a bot. But that's a person. Okay, so here's the regulation that shouldn't really maybe allow, like a Chat GPT to flirt with you. Okay,
Yeah.
but still you, a person who decides I'm gonna fall in love with that artificial person behind the screen. So, you know, humans are not perfect, never going to be perfect, but AI is for us to take and make our lives better, not to hate, not to try to ignore, not to it's there. Now
Yeah.
let's just take it and do what we can with
It's
it
not going
for.
anywhere. Moving on, you mentioned, yeah, you worked with multiple diverse teams. across different regions. I would want to bring in the global south, the ABAC, the talent diaspora over there. It's now being widely regarded as one of the most untapped and promising pools in the global tech. So,
Mhm.
your experience working with these teams, what kind of sourcing, engagement, and empowerment strategies have you seen work best, to unlock the true potential of the talent that's sitting, not just, mentioning just India, but now we're seeing talented individuals, emerge from across Pakistan, Vietnam, Bangladesh, everywhere, Philippines. So, how would you say these strategies would work to really unlock the talented potential there?
So I think already the power of the internet already had allowed us, I mean long time ago really, but only now realizing this after the pandemic. See, the situations that just happen around us, sometimes we don't see the bigger picture, but the bigger picture will at some point be visible. Sometimes,
Hmm.
like, I think already that opened up the markets, right? Because to be honest, maybe let me talk a little bit. Like, I remember when the EU expanded and we could go, like, Polish people, 10 countries joined the EU on the 1st of May 2004, and
Yeah.
Poland was one of them. And then suddenly we could go and work in the EU wherever we wanted. And that created a little bit of dissatisfaction from those markets, because they were saying, oh, like, all these Poles, they cheaper, our jobs are taken. You probably heard that, because suddenly this talent that didn't have the same salary expectations, because we didn't,
Yeah.
and they had different culture as a country. They would, I don't know, they would be more keen to do things that some other people maybe didn't want to do for less money. So created a little bit of a threat. But from the employer perspective,
Hmm.
great, because I have great talent, committed workforce, and I don't have to pay as much. And I feel like with the remote teams and the internet, it's even wider, because today, if you need to hire a software developer, you can hire somebody who is in a completely different country, sitting at home doing the work for you. The costs are minimal, and the
Hmm.
expectations are also minimal comparing to somebody who needs to commute every day from east to west London to come to the office
Yeah.
and do
Yeah.
the same work. I'm not saying the quality of one or another. Like, I'm comparing like to like, and there are great people everywhere in the world. It's not that, you know. So it's actually an equalizer, like the workers market has become a little bigger, a lot,
The
excuse me,
dem-
bigger. The only potential barrier that everybody needs to be mindful, and again, that puts people in the center, is the different cultures of different countries. Because what my natural expectations are, like what people do, what time they've got a lunch break, whatever, that can be completely different in a different country. Or we need to respect people culture also in communication. You don't want to make anybody feel somehow worse or so I personally see it as a great thing, because we can learn from each other, but we
Hmm.
need to really, from day one, say, okay, we've got people from different cultural backgrounds, we
Yeah.
need to learn from each other. Let's not assume anything, let's ask questions, lots of questions. And then assuming the best intentions in everyone, and everybody
Hmm.
accepting this is the way we come in with the best intentions.
Yeah.
Sometimes we're gonna get it wrong, sometimes you're gonna say something that, you know or you're gonna maybe feel awkward or do something strange, or don't might no. You may also not necessarily accept someone's behavior, but here is something that AI cannot replace, no matter when. This is the communication when you say, "Oh wow, why did you do that?" Because honestly, I actually, like, if I did something like this in my country, that, like, nobody would have it. It's actually borderline.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
it's actually dodgy. And then another person says, "Oh, really? Well, no, because," and then if you come with the best intentions and openness and you want to understand and they want to explain, great, because everybody learns. It's only when people don't talk, take offense quietly, that's when things are not going to work. Um, so having that initial agreement that we're building a very diverse team
Yeah.
and we are all going to be curious, kind, and with the best intentions. And everybody accepts those three simple things. Everybody accepts these rules. And communication is the key. That's when everybody can thrive because, even just between you and I, we bring completely different perspectives to a topic. If we were discussing how something should be done, I'm sure we would have different approaches.
Yeah.
Them together are more valuable than just mine because probably around me everybody has similar to mine, so it's actually enriching. um
Absolutely.
so I feel like it's an equalizer. It only enables people who don't necessarily want to move, like maybe somebody is very happy living where they live and they don't want to move. That's where they've got
Mm.
their family. That's where they want to raise their children. Why do they need to move to get a job? Now today maybe they don't. Maybe they can have a job remotely with a company somewhere in New York when they do what they need to do from their lovely home on the beach somewhere. Why not?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the mention of, equalizer
Mm.
that you said, and that the democratization of
Yeah,
technology and AI that we have seen, and it has enabled, people from across different regions to connect. And like you said, different perspectives, different backgrounds coming together. And I personally, really believe that we'll see a very impactful, scalable, and sustainable innovation emerge from different areas, and only through this, by connecting different perspectives, diverse cultures.
absolutely. I can give you like an example. Back, when was it? 2008, maybe something like back then. I was running programs to bring Polish software developers to work in Dublin and in London.
Okay.
And what we were doing, we would organize the campaign somewhere in Poland, right? Let's say Krakow or Warsaw. We would work with the local providers, make a bit of PR, marketing. Then I would screen those people over the phone. They only needed to speak English because obviously they were going to work in a global organization. But then we went to, say, Warsaw, interviewed them, and the company would make offers. And those people got great offers. They got the offer to, like, the normal job, but also the whole package to relocate them and their families, temporary apartments for the first few months of being here. Very, very attractive offers. It was too good to be true, but the cost for the company that was doing it was obviously quite high. We needed to pay for all those expenses. And today I'm running my own business and I'm getting contacted by someone who provides similar service, and they call me and they say, hey, do you need somebody like a web developer or somebody, because we've got a network of great software developers in Eastern Europe, and they can do it for you, and they can do it for this much money, which is competitive to the market I live in. But we're not moving them anymore. They just stay at home. they
Yeah.
they can do the service. We've got the connector. And I saw also another guy who was doing the same with software developers from Africa, which I thought was brilliant because, again, such a big untapped market that, people everywhere have skills, great things to sell, great values, great abilities, and we just don't even know about it. So I think that's a great opportunity that our lives today offer to everyone.
Yeah, absolutely. Before, I get into the last section of this podcast,
Mhm.
given your experience working in different cultures and different, different technologies, and they continue to evolve at a very unprecedented pace. What, is the next major sorry, what seismic shift will still need to happen to, truly support women in, technical leadership, especially in distributed hybrid environments where visibility, like we, mentioned earlier, that visibility and influence can be uneven.
Oh my God, this is such a big topic, so I need to try not to drift too much. um, Let me start with this. I heard a statistic. Now I can't give you the source because I don't remember. I only remember it was a reliable source, and that's why it was so scary. That said that we are 150 years away, minimum, from gender equality in the workplace. Um, that's not in my lifetime, so it's scary. And now the statement itself is scary, but let's look at how much we've already achieved and how much we've already done. And now, also, because I'm a woman, I think women are raised differently. I mean, women are different people to men. I know maybe that's an unpopular statement. Some people would say there is no difference between us. I believe there are differences. We think maybe slightly different. We obviously have different biological functions. We are slightly different. We are obviously all people and we are equally capable, but how we approach that capability is different. And how we raise girls is also different. And now I remember how I was raised different to my, to the boys around me, and how I was told, like, girls don't behave like this, but he does, he's not a girl. So um, maybe these days, maybe younger generations are raised differently. Maybe girls are a little more confident, but I think it all starts with feeding girls with confidence from the early age. When I was a little girl, I was told by everybody around me that one day I'm going to get married and have children. Well, neither I'm married nor I have children, but they were all convinced from day one that that's what I'm going to do. What do you say to boys? Oh, who would you like to be? Would you like to be an architect? Would you like to be an astronaut? Would you like to be? So, in a way, unconsciously, completely, a girl is boxed to be a mom and a wife, and then maybe she works as well. And the boy is immediately kind of maybe an astronaut,
Yeah,
right? So it kind of create different perception on the world by those kids. And yes, women maybe have more maternal instinct than men. I don't know. I
yeah,
know fantastic men who are fantastic fathers and women who are not necessarily, very fulfilled with being mothers. But, you know, maybe if we generalize, that's true. But, like, girls don't exist just to be moms, wives, and pretty, which is like, oh, you're so pretty. And the boy, oh, you're so smart. Like, girls also can be smart and boys also can be. And I think that's where it all starts. We raise kids differently, and
yeah,
then because that's how we raise, and the whole neuro programming happens from the early age, then you sort of translate that programming into your world. So another research proved that women need to feel like before they apply to a job, they meet all the criteria, ideally more. And the male counterpart looks at the jobs like, okay, one, it says 10 points, 1, 2, 3. Okay, good. I apply.
yeah,
Different, different outlook. Also,
yeah,
men are slightly more prone to take risks by nature, and women are more on the safe side in general again. So that also matters, right? So that's why, if you like, I remember again when I was small, my dad was always pushing me. He was like, come on, like, oh, I'm scared. No, no, go, 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 because he's a man and he was sort of, pushing me to do things, whereas my mom is like, don't ask her to do it, this is dangerous, right? That's why as a kid you learn that, okay, you can maybe take a risk, but it might be dangerous or something. So I'm sorry, something is clicking all the
yeah.
time on
Sorry.
my computer. So where am I going with it? If you are programmed in a certain way, that's how your programming is going to realize in your adult life. That these are choices you're going to make in your adult life. You can't
Yeah,
have 50-50 software developers team if there are not enough women studying software development. And why are they not? Because maybe they're not interested, or maybe they were told this is too complicated for them, whatever reason. If there aren't, then we need to also look at what we are offering then, to the workplace. And we have to be super careful, and I remember I saw it many times, we have to be super careful not to offer jobs to someone only because of the gender, because it doesn't make sense. I don't want
Yeah.
to get a job because I'm the only woman in the pot of candidates and there is already too many men there. And I want to get the job because I'm the best candidate. And everybody wants the job because they're the best candidate. And if it means that there are only, I don't know, 10 women on the team, then if these are the best candidates in this particular job, then maybe so be it. Maybe then the diversity needs to be created by combining this team with another team and make them work together.
Yeah,
What
absolutely.
because it was coming dangerous. It was like, managers were getting into trouble for not hiring different gender, which then creates this exact situation. I have one person from the opposite gender, I hire them because otherwise I'm going to be in trouble. So how, like, we need to be realistic with diversity because diversity is not a number, and diversity needs to be diversity in a business is a reflection of the reality. We can't really create people out of whatever dust. If you don't have any candidate from the gender you want to hire, because there aren't anybody, nobody graduated in gender, let's say, then what are you going to do? We should be looking at diversity wider, not just gender, point of view, um, religion, how we raised, um, personality, neurodiversity. There's so many different aspects. And at the level of the company, obviously, we want to have a mix. So then again, it's the leadership job to create opportunities for, if we're focusing on the gender, for those genders to work together, mix together, exchange ideas together, even if it's uncomfortable, maybe, but not force an outcome team by team, because then it's what I said, it's forced.
Absolutely. Yeah. And lastly, if you could, speak to the next generation of, women stepping into engineering, product, and leadership and tech roles,
Mhm.
what's one belief or a mindset that you would hope that they carry with them?
Okay, I think one thing that I give anybody, but I think it especially resonates with women, is really listen to your heart. If that's what you want to do, you can. You can do whatever you want to do. So if you really want to do it, nobody can tell you otherwise. You want to
Absolutely.
be this person, you're going to be this person. Nobody can tell you otherwise. You figure it out. Don't give up. And um, and just go for it, and take, also reach out to others for help. Like, I'm always very happy to just mentor people, even just, just because they have a couple of questions, just to mentor people. You just reach out to people because you don't have to do it on your own. You're not on your own. But if you really know this is what I want to do, no matter how crazy this is to everybody around you, nobody is qualified to tell you. Only you can decide. You decide and you can do it. That's what I
Yeah,
would tell
that's an amazing mindset. Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Well, Agatha, it's been an absolute pleasure, having you with us, talking culture, people, the transformations happening around us, and how we're going to, go through this. Amazing times, ahead, and I would love to have you again, with us.
Sure. I mean, I'm looking at emotional intelligence in leadership. I want to launch a product that will just talk about that, because again, I think that's another kind of controversial topic, like EQ being less important, perceived as less important than
No, we're
IQ.
all for that.
So like, I want to empower people. So this is the direction. This is where I look. This is what many people tell me, that I'm crazy and it doesn't matter. But as I just said, it matters in my opinion, and it's not crazy. And that's what I want to do, and that's what I'm gonna do. So I would love to come again at some point and talk
Would
to
love
you.
to have
Thank you
you.
so very much.